welcome to today's episode of Juicing the Numbers. I am your co-host, Joshua Tracy.
And I am Corwin Heller.
And today we're going to be talking about MLB free agency. So this is the non-statistics episode. It's our Monday edition, so we're really just going to be kind of chit-chatting about what's been going on with it. Because it's, well, for one thing, it is an event every year, but it's the second year in a row of it being exceedingly quiet.
Mm-hmm. All right. You want to get started with it since this is your wheelhouse?
Sure. So we're recording this on January 25th. As of right now, Machado and Harper, the two expected giant free agents of this class, haven't done anything. Do you have any thoughts on what's going on with that before we get to the other signings?
I mean, I know the rumors have been that Manny Machado's offers have been significantly lower than what his asking price has been, and that's kind of been what his holdup is. I am absolutely clueless on what's going on with Bryce Harper, so I can't even begin to speculate what's going on there. How about you?
Harper, I think, is an interesting case because he seems... I think his biggest issue is, one, inconsistency, and then two, the fact that Machado isn't signed yet. Because I kind of think... It seems so weird because one's outfield, one's infield. You don't think that they should be keeping each other out of play. But I think you're kind of keeping each other out of play because I think a lot of teams are like... Not a lot of teams, but I think that the teams that would be in on them would be like, well, all right, I'm going to get one, but I want to see what the one gets before I pick which one I'm going to make a bigger push for. I feel like they're waiting for one of those two guys to set the market, and since neither one of those guys is happy with the market, they haven't been able to set the market. It's been like a weird game of chicken between everyone involved.
Right.
I think there's a general downward trend in high-end contracts, big, fancy contracts. I don't think we're going to see another Giancarlo Stanton-style contract for quite some time. I think people are afraid of years. I think people are afraid of the back end of players' careers in the what we can say is the post-steroid era. Machado, I think, is a little bit weirder that he hasn't been signed yet. I kind of expect him to be signed about 20 days ago. I was really expecting him to be signed like the week after the New Year happened. Harper, I'm not as surprised with because I want him on the Yankees just to get that out of the way. I'm about to shit talk him a little bit, but I do still want him on my team. He's a much less consistent player than Machado. Machado has been remarkably consistent throughout his entire MLB career thus far, whereas Harper has the ceiling of winning the MVP a few years ago, but the floor of hitting 230 with a really good walk rate and decent power, but being an awful fielder. Whereas Machado has a Gold Glove, and if he didn't play in the American League, which is just stacked, had a chance, I think, at MVP the past couple of years. So I think it's tough because I think that the teams that have the most money to throw around are also the teams that are the most statistically oriented, which I think therefore also makes them the teams less willing to throw their money around.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. I don't see the Yankees being that team that just takes fistful of dollars out of their safe and just throwing it at players hoping it works out anymore. So I'm surprised that they haven't. I mean, if the Machado rumors are true, I'm surprised that they haven't offered something significantly more competitive. I mean, they've had a couple signings so far this year that have kind of pieced them in a position where they don't need him quite as much. It's definitely something that I would agree that they need to be putting the pedal to the floor almost, if you will, to try and snag him, though.
I don't want to keep this super Yankees heavy just because I could talk about the Yankees forever. I will say, though, that they're not when you win 100 games, it's hard to look at a player and think he's going to be a massive improvement to my roster. Machado would be a massive improvement to the White Sox roster. Machado would be a really good improvement to the Yankees lineup. It wouldn't be game changing. The reason I'm so in favor of it, and again, I know it sounds like I'm downplaying Harper and Machado, and I'm not. The reason you'd still want to do it is because it doesn't cost you anything other than dollars. You know, when the Yankees are picked up fucking Luke Voigt, it cost them one of their not main bullpen guys, but like a consistently there bullpen guy. You know, I'm not saying that like the world misses Chase and Shreve, but I'm saying it cost you dollars and a major league player. You know, whereas Machado would only cost you dollars, which in the grand scheme of things, in terms of the future of your baseball organization, if you're a giant like the Yankees or the Dodgers or the Red Sox or whomever, it's not that big of a deal because you can recoup that just in the increasing year-to-year value of your business anyway. So I was thinking about the easiest way or the most palatable way of getting through this. And I think maybe going division by division might be the best, just because I think that will also give us the opportunity to talk about where teams kind of stand as of right now and give context for their moves. You want to do that?
Making me bring up the division so I don't fuck something up.
So why don't we start with the AL East since we were already talking about the Yankees. So the Yankees didn't... They signed... Adam Ottavino into the bullpen. They signed J.A. Happ. They signed CC Sabathia, Brett Gardner, DJ LeMahieu. So in addition to that, they also signed Troy Tulowitzki. They took him after the Blue Jays cut him. So I guess that technically counts as a free agency signing. There's also a bunch of minor league dudes I don't know, although one of them is Danny Farquhar, whom I am so excited about. So fucking excited about Danny Farquhar. Beautiful story.
I honestly don't know who that is.
He is the relief pitcher on the White Sox who suffered a brain hemorrhage last year.
Oh, he was the one that was hit in the head.
No, he just had it happen in sitting down like a normal guy. That's the thing. No, that shit just fucking happened.
Yeah, no, I remember that name. Like, it rings a bell, and like the Reds or the White Sox were, big in supporting him and going to the hospital like after games and stuff. And I remember that. I thought he was the pitcher that got hit in the head. That's significantly more scary than I thought.
Oh yeah, no, okay. A friend of mine actually had that happen to them and miraculously lived. Like it's a big deal to fucking live through that shit. So. I am so happy to have him on the team in whatever capacity. I really want him to pitch. If he pitches one inning in the majors this year and I get to watch it, I'll be fucking thrilled. But overall, I mean, the Yankees picked up starting pitching depth in re-signing J. Happ and re-signing CC Sabathia, and they also traded for James Paxton. They brought Gardner back on a one-year deal, which makes a lot of sense. They replaced, what's his name? Neil Walker with DJ LeMahieu, which I think is a good upgrade. They replaced Chase and Shreve and a half season of Zach Britton with a full season of Zach Britton. They replaced David Robertson.
There we go.
They replaced David Robertson with Adam Ottavino. And they picked up Troy Tulowitzki seemingly for the fuck of it. So I'm if the Yankees don't do anything else, I'll be mildly upset only because they still have a fuck ton of money that they have the capability of spending. But to me, this looks really good.
I'm confused as to why they're signing so many middle infielders.
Oh, it's because Didi Gregorius had Tommy John surgery and is missing the first 4 months of the season.
Like, I get that, so I'm assuming they're going to move Glaber over to short.
Well, that's
LeMahieu
where Tulowitzki is going to play if he's healthy.
Not move Glaber over and start LeMahieu?
No, because they want Gleyber Torres to be a second baseman. Because the thing with second baseman is there's a thing that there's no such thing as natural second baseman. Second basemen are people who were in the minors playing shortstop and then get moved to second base out of the team that they in the system's necessities. And that was Gleyber. Right. That's why people have been saying he'd move to shortstop because he's a natural shortstop. But the Yankees want him to get used to playing second base because he had like the second or third most errors as a second baseman last year, and he didn't play a full season. Like, he needs to get used to playing second base. So I would assume that they would put Tulowitzki there, and then if he's healthy, and then on Tulowitzki's off days, either move Gleyber over there and put in LeMahieu at second, or just put LeMahieu there because they're planning on using LeMahieu as a utility player, not a second baseman.
Huh. I mean, I feel like LeMahieu's a bit too big to be an effective... Like, he would remind me of a Manny Machado shortstop, which is just clearly not a natural position for him. I think that he's too good of a player just to be a fill-in-where-you-can utility kind of player. So I will be interested in seeing kind of what they do with him long-term. I'm surprised that they're trying to use Tulowitzki as an everyday player, considering the drop-off he's had with all his injuries.
Drop-off is putting it very kindly.
Right. I mean, he basically crashed from upper orbit.
Yeah, I mean, he was on a Hall of Fame trajectory to being a massive what-if. I mean, that's one of the reasons the Yankees fans have been saying Machado makes so much sense there, because we've got nothing but money and a hole at shortstop for the first, 4 months of the season.
Mm-hmm.
For reference, by the way, LeMahieu is the same size as Didi Gregorius. Just saying.
Is he really?
Yes, he is. I think an inch taller. It's not a big difference. The Yankees are one of the tallest teams in the league. They are big people.
Jesus, now I gotta look this stuff up, and I can't because my J and L keys still don't work, so I can't type DJ LeMahieu in.
But I'm very happy. He's a Gold Glove player, so I think he's got nothing but great defensive capability to do whatever the fuck he feels like. The Red Sox have done shockingly nothing. They re-signed Eovaldi for 4 years. Wow, I forgot it was that long. They re-signed Steve Pearce. They picked up Gorkis Hernandez. I didn't know that. That's funny as shit. And minor league contract, that makes sense. And some dude named Carson Smith I've never heard of before. What do you think about these 4 very insignificant moves from the Red Sox?
I genuinely think that the Red Sox are going to have the largest fall off this season of any team. They definitely didn't. They got worse player-wise. I don't know how they're going to manage going through the season with the bullpen that they have. I just see them being major regression candidates this year, and none of their free agent signings answered any of their major questions.
No, I was about to disagree with you because they're just such a good team at the pieces that they're really good at. They're also such a mediocre to bad team at the positions they're not really good at. The only real strength of their bullpen last season was Craig Kimbrell, who's gone. Brian Brazier looked really good, and he could be promising going forward, but I wouldn't bank on, most of a season's performance from him. Mookie Betts way outperformed his average performance as a ball player. You know what? His OPS plus was 50 points higher than his next highest OPS plus per season.
Jesus Christ!
Like you're right that they're probably up for one of the biggest. Only because they finished 108 wins is so many wins. Like if they finish at 90 wins, which is a respectable season, 90 wins, that's still an 18 game difference, and that's just and that's why I think you could be right, just because they finished last season so high. I don't think they're going to be anywhere near a losing season. They're still going to give the Yankees every ounce of fight they have for that division. But I see your point that they could have a huge drop off just because of how high their ceiling was last year.
If they finished the season with 85 wins, I don't think I would be all that surprised. And that's a huge drop off.
I'd be surprised, but if you said Oh, it's because Chris Sale and David Price got hurt. I go, that makes sense. Both of those dudes were remarkably healthy last year, and I know Chris Sale had 2 DL stints last year. That's still healthy for Chris Sale.
Right. Like, I just don't trust. So many things went right for them last year that really I don't think are going to have a chance of happening again.
I'd put them at about 95 wins. I think would be fair. Okay. I think that's their true potential. But yeah, we'll see. You're right. Everything did kind of break their way. The Rays, they signed Avisail Garcia, Charlie Morton, and Jake Smolinski, who I've never heard of. Oh, minor league contract. That makes sense. What do you think about the Rays?
Just for sake of getting rid of like these minor league deals, for the trade rumors tracker, I just put it as anything greater than like $1 million, just so we get rid of all like those minor league deals.
Okay, but what do you think of these? I guess 2 more or larger Rays deals.
Again, I'm surprised. I know we talked about this in the past, but I'm surprised that they signed Charlie Morton to the deal that they did. With the way they were going with having openers and really only having Snell as their one mainstay as a starting pitcher. I'm surprised they gave him $30 million. As for Garcia, I don't know really enough about him to have an opinion on him. So that's all I got to say.
No, I think this makes sense. I mean, don't forget, in our previous conversations about the Rays, it's always been that they've been doing the opener because they have to do the opener because they don't have a lot of money or
Fair
major
enough.
league talent, for that matter.
Fair enough.
So what I saw as a projection, which I think is very fair, is that they'll do Snell at the top and then Morton and then some combination of opener, what's his face, Ryan? No, not Ryan Yarbrough. Who did they take from the Pirates?
Tyler Glasnow.
Tyler Glasnow, and then another. So 2 opener days and Tyler Glasnow as the bottom 3 spots.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, we'll see. I think this is fair. They picked up an outfield bat in Avisail Garcia and Charlie Morton's Luke. I'm a little bit more surprised that they didn't go with Dallas Keuchel, although that could just be a year's thing over a dollars thing, because I bet that they just didn't want to go that far down the road. You know, Charlie Morton's at the end of his career. He was, last I heard, it was either a short-term like if he didn't get a nice enough offer, I heard he was going to retire. I think he's 35.
Wow.
Like, he's not young.
Born in Flemington.
Yes, sir. So, yeah, I mean, I think the Rays are primed to have a nice season. I have a hard time saying they're going to do what they did last season again, although I would love it because I think it was fascinating just from a baseball stats perspective. But I'd put them around the 85-90 win mark.
I know Brent Honeywell's supposed to come back somewhere around June, and a lot of people were pegging him for a big breakout last year. He's their top prospect, one of the top pitching prospects in baseball. Hopefully he can figure it out and stay healthy this year and come back strong for them.
Yeah, I always root for not injuries. Not injuries are always good.
He's a douche, though, so you can't root for him too hard.
All right, that's fair. All right, so then we got the Blue Jays. They signed Matt Shoemaker, formerly of the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Fuck that fucking name. And David Phelps, who I have no idea who David Phelps is. So they signed a starting pitcher to, I guess, take over Marco Estrada, who just today got announced as going to the Oakland Athletics, and then picked up a relief pitcher. I don't care what the Blue Jays did.
Yeah, I mean,
they're
Phelps
the 4th
is
best team
kind
in
of
this
a nobody.
division.
Matt Shoemaker is not a great pitcher. is what it is. They're not changing much this year.
No. I don't blame him. I mean, I think this year for Blue Jays fans is going to be more about Vlad Guerrero Jr. than anything else. And maybe Bichette's kid. What's his name?
Bo Bichette.
Bo Bichette. If he makes an appearance, which I would hope he would, because yeah, I mean this team sucks, and why not? So, do you think? Let me ask you this: do you think Vlad Guerrero makes the opening day roster, or do you think they have him wait till like June?
Yeah, I think they're going to have him wait a couple months at least, just to extend his team control
service time. Yeah, it's just such bullshit. They're not it's a separate conversation.
Yeah. I am so against that as just being a thing, but yeah, they have no reason to get him up any sooner than they have to.
I am in agreement. Actually, before I even look, do you think have you heard anything about the Orioles signing anybody?
Oh God, no. Let's
see. Oh no, they have 3 acquisitions, all minor league. I don't care about any of them. Yep. All right, so we're just gonna move the fuck on.
I just want to say, how are they so poorly run as a team?
Well, no, believe it or not, this is what they needed to do like 2 or 3 years ago. Right, but it could have been so much less painful if they did it 2 or 3 years ago because they had trade pieces. And what they did is that they didn't trade any of them until this year when they barely had much value because the team around them was bad. And now they're bottoming out the hardest I've ever seen a team bottom out with no end in sight, but at least they can't get worse.
Over under 40 wins this year.
I have to say over just because to predict under 40 wins is it's like predicting over 95 wins. It's
like
it could happen,
over
but
under a win for the Browns, like in recent years. Yeah.
So, who do you pick as the division winner for the American League East if you were forced to?
As much as I hate to fucking say it to your face, I think it's the New York Yankees.
Yeah, it is, bitch. Same. All right, let's move on to the AL Central. Yeah?
Yeah, I'm all for that.
All right, so let's start with our local. They're not local. Let's start with the Cleveland Indians. Have they signed any? Oh, they have one signing. They signed Oliver Perez.
Yeah.
So I guess that's their Andrew Miller replacement, right?
And Cody Allen lost him yesterday.
That's right. I forgot about that. Do you
yeah.
care?
About Oliver Perez? No. Do I care about losing Andrew Miller, Michael Brantley, Cody Allen, our team, Josh Donaldson, everyone?
Yeah, I think the Indians are just sitting there thinking to themselves, this division's bad, and we're probably going to win it, so we're just going to punt. I think they're just punting on this offseason. And honestly, can't blame them. Really, they barely tried last year and still won the division. So maybe they'll just see how it goes.
So much worse this year. I just they struggled at times to control this division.
Who's their competition? Struggled. The White Sox is probably the closest. Maybe the Twins. Maybe.
I mean, the Twins were showing signs of life last year. The White Sox showed signs of life last year. I'm not worried about winning the division. I'm worried about being a competitive baseball team with the rest of Major League Baseball, and I just don't see them doing that this year. And it sucks.
It'll certainly be an interesting season in the AL Comedy Central once again. But speaking of the Twins, let's shift on over to them. They signed Ronald Torreyes, Nelson Cruz, Martin Perez, who's a starting pitcher, I don't know, Jonathan Scope, and Blake Parker. How do you feel about these guys?
Shoop, however the fuck you pronounce his name. I mean, he's really the only major player who's not at retirement age. Hopefully Nelson Cruz can hopefully Nelson Cruz can squeeze another year out of his career. I mean, Blake Parker, Martin Perez. Martin Perez is all right at $3.5 million, but other than that, nothing exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I think these are all fill-in gaps. A starting pitcher. Not to forget, they should get the guy from the fucking Yankees. Oh my God, what's his fucking? Why can't I think of a name today?
Ronald Torreyes?
No, the pitcher that we traded to the Twins.
Oh,
Dominican dude.
Pineda?
Yes, Miguel Pineda. So they get Miguel Pineda back this season, which will increase their starting pitching depth.
Michael?
Is it Michael Pineda?
Thought it was, yeah.
Might be.
Doesn't matter.
I might be over Hispanicizing his name. Oh well, doesn't matter.
Yeah, it is Michael.
It's just his name. Who gives a shit? Jonathan Scope, I think, is a good player. I know he had a rough outing with the Brewers last year after they traded for him, but I still think he's a good player. Haven't seen plenty of him when he was on the Orioles. I think Ronnie Torreyes is mildly underrated, but he's not going to elevate this Twins team that much that it really matters. So I think this is fine. I think this is totally fine. This is an end off season for the Twins.
Acceptable.
It could be enough to rival the Indians, depending on how the waves break. We shall see.
Please, for the love of God, do not trade any more starting pitchers. Speaking of the Indians. But this is a non sequitur that we don't need to head back around to, so we can move on.
Okay. The White Sox, they signed Kelvin Herrera, 2 minor league dudes, James McCann, and John Jay. These are all
John
guys.
Jay, yep. He's got some of the best hair in baseball. White boy dreads. Nope. I think I'm thinking of someone else.
No, you're thinking of John Jay.
Yeah, John Jasso. Yeah. Never mind. Fuck John Jay.
Who is retired, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I do remember last year he tried to head down to the dugout area just to say hi to some of his old teammates, and the ushers refused to let him into the lower bowl.
Yeah, they're like, Bud, you don't belong here. He goes, no, I used to play for the Rays. And they go, sure you did, Bud. And he was like, no, really, that's my coach. Yeah, if you don't know who John Jasso is, his last name is spelled Jaso. Look him up. He's a great dude, but he's a goofy-looking motherfucker.
Yeah.
But I see the White Sox progression this year not coming from any of these free agent acquisitions. I see it coming from their young talent developing, like Yoán Moncada having a better season. Guys like the people that they've been trading for in their teardown from a few years ago. Right. So I don't really, unless they sign Manny Machado or Bryce Harper, which I would honestly kind of love. I don't think any of these players are intended to be or are going to be what makes the White Sox more competitive this year.
No, I'm with you on that completely.
All right, then let's go over to the Tigers. They signed Matt Moore. Oh, Tyson Ross. I forgot that they signed Tyson Ross. Jordy Mercer, who I have no idea who that is.
Played for the Pirates.
No, that makes sense. Do you care about any of these acquisitions?
I mean, Jordy Mercer is a decent shortstop that won't start for them. Matt Moore hasn't been a thing in such a long time. Tyson Ross, didn't he get cut by the team last year? By the Padres?
No, he got traded. Right?
I thought he got cut. Yeah, no, they claimed him off waivers in August. The Cardinals claimed him.
Oh, so they did cut him.
Yeah, they cut him in August. I mean, that shouldn't change much about his, hype as a pitcher. I mean, he's arguably one of their better pitchers right now. as is. So, I mean, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm not terribly excited for him.
I mean, the Tigers' main issue last year was pitching. Their hitting was actually fine, from what I recall. I didn't do any research into this. Why should you expect me to do that?
Yeah,
But
exactly.
if based strictly on memory, I believe that their problem was like them and the Rangers had. Although the Rangers actually had a good offense, I recall their pitching just being abysmal. But I think the Tigers were a little bit less extreme version of that. So, do I think they're going to be good this year? No. They didn't get worse. That's something.
Yeah,
So-
that's true.
Yeah.
Is Cabrera going to make a comeback this year? Maybe.
It doesn't matter. They're going to have to play him regardless. Like Jesus, they're so hampered by that contract, and they should never have given it to him. But it is what it is.
Did you hear that Castellanos asked for a trade before the spring?
I don't blame him. I don't care what he wants. That's I mean, fuck, man. Baseball players are going to be playing on bad teams. I think it's a bad look. I think it's something he probably should have talked more privately about, because chances are the Tigers were going to do that since he's one of their only good players, and they need more players that could possibly pan out in the future. They don't need good players right now. So I don't know why he would be saying this publicly like it's the fucking NBA where you have the power to just do that. But I don't blame him. I'll put it that way. I don't blame him.
Fair enough. All right, so let's move on.
So,
then.
the Royals.
Mm-hmm.
What do you? They did. Hold on, I have their thing up. They did two things. They signed Billy Hamilton and some guy named Chris Owings. I don't know. What do you think?
Chris Owens was kind of a super utility player for the Diamondbacks last year. I actually like that signing for $3 million. I think that's a very good deal for them, value-wise. I wish I could care about Billy Hamilton, but he showed absolutely nothing last year of value. His hitting has absolutely plummeted. I mean, he still has the speed. He could still steal bases. It's just his on-base percentage was embarrassingly low last year. So I do not have a lot of hype for him.
No, I mean, they're clearly going for a speed thing, but you're right. The problem is that if Hamilton doesn't get on base, then what's the point of having the speed, which was his problem his whole career with the Reds. So, I mean, we'll see. If you had to pick a division winner for the AL Central, who would you pick?
The Indians, just because
Yeah.
they're the only competitive team.
Now, if you had to pick a second place team, who would you pick?
I'd go with the Twins.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think if everything breaks the right way for the White Sox, then maybe, but I think the Twins are far more likely to do something interesting with their season. Plus, they have a really good manager. I mean, their manager won Manager of the Year last year, so they've got it down.
They got Eddie Rosario, Byron Buxton. I mean, they have some good players on their team. I just don't see them competing with the Indians.
It'll be
the
tough to
Indians
compete
are
with the team that's
diminished.
Yeah, the Indians are actually a good team. So I went to go see if we'll move into the AL West. I went to go see if the Astros have done a thing, and they have done literally nothing. So
They signed Michael Brantley.
Oh, but that's a trade. I see why my problem is. I'm looking at free agents. Yeah. Neat. That's all I had to say about Michael Brantley. He's a StatCast darling in that he has a good hard contact rate and I guess the right launch angle statistics and shit. But I don't think that he's going to make the team much better, only because that team's already super fucking good. So I don't think there's anything to say about it.
Disagree with you. I think Michael Brantley is one of the most underrated players in Major League Baseball. I think he's going to be an everyday starter for them. I don't think he's going to be the cornerstone of that outfield by any means. He's a little too old for that, but I think he's going to make them a more competitive team, despite the Astros already being one of the best teams in baseball.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is I don't know how they can be more competitive than they already. I mean, I think he makes the team marginally better, and that they won't have to play Jake Marisnick anymore. But I don't know. Oh, there it is. They also signed Robinson Chirinos as catcher.
Yep.
I don't know that really. I mean, what edge is there to push them over? They were the American League favorites last season.
Yeah.
I don't know how you get much better than that. And that's why, like, if the Astros traded for Chris fucking Sale, I still wouldn't say that makes them. No, well, they lost a bunch of pitchers. What's a position that's really deep? If they signed Manny Machado, I wouldn't say it makes them much better because it just doesn't. They're so fucking good. Like, it just doesn't matter. You know?
I mean, either way you put it, you're signing a 3-time All-Star who just put up a year where he batted .309 with a .468 slugging and a OPS plus of 123. I mean, you're still becoming a better team than you were.
Yeah, no, like I said, I think that they'll be good, but I don't see any marker for them to be diving overhead. Regardless, the Oakland Athletics, they re-signed Mike Fiers. They picked up Joaquim Soria. They signed some guy named Chris Herman. And as I said previously, they signed Marco Estrada, which just happened today. So 3 pitchers and a catcher. What do you think?
I mean, Marco Estrada is an okay starting pitcher. Mike Fiers is an okay starting pitcher. And Joaquim Soria is a slightly better than okay relief pitcher. I mean, none of this is super exciting, but none of this is bad. I mean, their pitching last year was one of the worst in baseball. So, I mean, any improvement is a major improvement.
Yeah, but, I think you hit the nail on the head with it. This is kind of the same thing as the Rays. They were the only other team to do the opener strategy consistently, and that was, again, due to necessity. So the fact that they signed several pitchers is, I think, shocking to nobody, and probably the right decision there. So, yeah, cool. I think they will still be good because their hitting is good, and holy fuck, the Mariners have done so much. Goddamn. All right, I'm only going to say a couple of these because we're going to go with just the major league ones. Ruben Alanis, never heard of, relief pitcher. Corey Guerin, relief pitcher, never heard of him. Couple of minor leaguers, Ichiro Suzuki, Tim Beckham, Yusei Kikuchi, and Dylan Moore. What is there to say about the Mariners? What is there to say about the Mariners?
They got Tim Beckham too, which I like Tim Beckham as a player.
I like Tim Beckham too, actually.
And I mean, I'm looking at his contract, a 1-year, $1.75 million contract. Yes, please. I mean, damn, like that is pennies. So I love that signing. Everyone else who's not named Yusei Kikuchi, I don't care about in the slightest. I actually have no idea who Yusei Kikuchi is, but they signed him to a $56 million contract over 4 years, so he's probably quite good.
Yusei Kikuchi is the latest, and so far as I know, only Japanese ball player to come over to the States this season.
Oh, yeah.
So the Mariners won that sweepstakes. It was a little bit confusing because everyone was like, why? Clearly you plan on being bad, but, I mean, fuck it, why not? The Mariners are in a strong market, and they have not too much other money on the book. I mean, you look at all these contracts. The one you said for Tim Beckham, 1.75. You look at Dylan Moore one's less than $1 million. The Corey Guerin one's 1.5, and the Ruben Alanis one is $555,000. So, the Mariners are going to be bad this year. I think everyone expects them to be bad this year. I think that it was their intention to not be good this year. So. They're in a teardown. I think Dipoto's doing it the right way. He's shedding payroll while also stacking a farm system, while also being able to field a competent major league team on the cheap. I think it's interesting, although, as I said, they will be bad.
Yeah, I mean, they really overproduced last year. They lost some key pieces. They're going to be a not-so-great team this year.
Yeah, but, it is what it is. That's the way she goes. The Mariners fans are going to have to continue waiting to have a season that actually brings them something to root for. So shall we move to the Texas Rangers?
Yep.
All right, they signed 2 major league deals: Zach McAllister, Lance Lynn, Asdrubal Cabrera, Jeff Mathis, Jesse Chavez, and Shelby Miller. Give me some takes.
Asdrubal Cabrera, I'm sure I'm butchering that name. Asdrubal Cabrera, excuse me. Not a bad signing. Lance Lynn, not a terrible signing. I mean, none of these guys.
I think that one's awful.
Really? Oh my God, $30 million? All right, I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, no. If they got him for like 3 years, I don't want to disrespect Lance Lynn by saying a stupid low number, but I'm sorry, 3 years and like $15 million, I think is not bad.
That's what I would have expected.
Let me pull something up real quick. Let's just see what MLB trade rumors had, if they had anything for Lance Lynn as a projection. Yeah, they had 2 years, $16 million, so they were a little bit more generous than me. But yeah, that they way overpaid. But I guess they need starting pitching, so whatever.
Yeah.
Sorry, I cut you off. Any other thoughts with this?
No, not really.
I don't have any either. As I said previously, the Rangers were bad because their pitching is bad, and so the response to that was to pick up 2 starting pitchers, 2 relief pitchers, 3 relief pitchers, and then a couple of minor league relief pitchers. So they are also aware of their faults, and they signed Asdrubal Cabrera, who's a good player, and I feel bad for him because he will be on a bad team while coming from a career or a few seasons with the Mets, who are also a bad team. So he's going to just be spending his eternal career on bad teams, and he seems like a nice guy, and that's kind of sad, but at least he's getting paid something.
Yeah, at least.
All right, the Angels. They signed Cody Allen, Trevor Cahill, Jonathan Lucroy, Matt Harvey, and Justin Bour.
I love the Cody Allen signing. I know he was kind of what's the word? He underperformed last year. I still think he's a top reliever in baseball. Maybe not top tier, but he is a very good reliever. Justin Bour, I think he's going to produce for them no matter what goes on. Trevor Cahill, again, he'll start for them. He'll do fine. Jonathan Lucroy is nothing to write home about, especially at this age. So, I mean, I like their free agent class. I don't think it's anything that's going to push them towards Super Bowl contention, but whatever. They got Mike Trout. Can't complain.
Yeah, these are all baseball players, and I think the Lucroy signing's great. I really like Jonathan Lucroy as both seemingly a dude and as a catcher. I think he's a really great defensive catcher, not a bad bat. Matt Harvey's just trying to get by in life, and they need pitching, so it seems to work out. Same thing with Trevor Cahill. So I honestly couldn't even pinpoint to you what the Angels' problem is. Obviously, they're not good. I'm not even sure really if I could put my finger on what it is about them that's not good, other than the obvious, they don't win enough games. Because their pitching's like so spotty. Like they'll get everyone on their pitching staff seems to be a two-faced pitcher who will throw a great game, and then the next start will throw such a bad game you wonder how the fuck they're in the majors. So maybe that'll change since they hired a new manager this year, and they can get some kind of consistency out of the players they do have. Because if everyone played up to their potential, they would not be a bad team. But as of right now, I'm not impressed by the current makeup of the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, because they have never given me a reason to be. So if you had to pick a division winner for the AL West, who would you pick?
I mean, if you pick anyone but the Astros, you're insane.
You're a fool. Who do you think comes in second?
I still think the Angels will, but mostly just because Mike Trout's going to be dragging them by their ankles to second place rather than them being able to put together a good team.
Yeah.
That and all these other teams are garbage.
Well, I think I'm going to pick the A's just because they just did it, and they did it decently convincingly. If they had a first half of the season that looked anything like their second half of the season, then by all means they would have. They almost beat out Houston for the division last year. Like they had a great season last year. I just don't know how their
pitching is going to hold up. I mean, outside of Sean Manaea, they have nobody.
I mean, I wouldn't even really trust Sean Manaea that much. I'm mostly going based on their abilities with the bats to carry them.
True.
Only because that division fucking sucks. So, outside of the Astros, of course, but we'll see. All right, so last year we had the Red Sox as the 1 seed with 108 games, and then the Astros came in second. The Indians came in third, with the Yankees and the A's making up the 2 wild card spots. And as of right now, you're saying, what would you say would be changing in that the AL playoff picture for next season?
I think the Yankees are going to take the 1 seed. I think the Astros are going to stay at number 2 with the Indians at 3. And then I think it's probably going to be the Red Sox in wild card 1. And then I guess the Angels in wild card 2. I don't know. I think that's going to be a close race between them and the A's, like you said. I just don't see anyone in any of these divisions. Like maybe the Rays if they can figure out their pitching, just because I want them to succeed more than I think they will. But yeah, that's what I got for their AL playoff picture.
Yeah, I was going to say the AL wildcard 2 spot seems very interesting because I think the 1 spot will go to whoever does not win the AL East between the Yankees and the Red Sox. But the AL 2 spot, I could see it potentially going to the A's, the Twins if everything goes their way, the Rays, and as you said, you have a modicum of faith in the Angels. I say that's fair to have some faith in Mike Trout. It's hard to bet against him. So I think it'll be an interesting race as well. Of the remaining free agents left, who do you think would make the most sense in American League uniform? Like if you had to pick a team for like Bryce Harper to go to, for Manny Machado to go to, where would you allocate these players?
I honestly have no idea. For Bryce Harper, I don't see him going to the American League. I really don't. I could see Manny Machado going to the Yankees as a third baseman, not as a shortstop. I think that would work out well for them. I mean, Craig Kimbrell, I could see going to a team like the Red Sox who need a closer. You know, I think that matchup would work great.
He's just asking for so much money. That's the only problem with him.
He doesn't really deserve it. Well, not at his asking price. He deserves a large contract. He doesn't deserve what he's asking for. Hopefully it ends up being what he's asking for. Right. Hopefully it ends up being a JD Martinez situation for them where they can sign him last minute to just under what he's asking for and it ends up working out. But I don't see him going anywhere else in the AL right now. Maybe to the Indians, but they kind of showed that they don't want to spend too much money this year.
Yeah, they were very. I mean, they were getting ready to trade between Kluber and Bauer. So yeah, I don't think they're feeling the whole mood to trade or sign an expensive player. Just because I thought it was interesting. How much money in total payroll do you think the Red Sox have committed as of right now?
Oh, I couldn't.
For the 2019 season.
I could not even begin to guess. What are the Yankees at?
The Yankees have 184,000 Or sorry, 184 million. Jesus, yeah, 1,000, please. On the books for 2019 thus far.
I'll say 163.
Oh, you're so wrong, my sweet summer child. $220 million.
Fuck.
Yeah, they still lead.
Oh, they're
well,
so fucked.
That's why they haven't signed anybody, because they're tapped out. Where do you think the Astros are right now in total payroll?
I think they're at a cool 200.
128.
Holy fucking Christ.
Yeah, so that's kind of what's interesting. I didn't realize that either, which is why I just brought it up. So they're outside the top 10, the number 11. The Seattle Mariners have more money on their books right now for next season by almost $20 million, which really makes it more interesting to me as to why the Astros haven't signed, say... I can't imagine it's just Bregman. That's so much money to spend when you're one of the top 5 media markets in the country. I mean, like, why
going after Harper, man?
Not even that. Why aren't they re-signing Dallas Keuchel? I mean, like, their starting pitching was like their whole deal last season, and now it's
not good last year.
He was serviceable last year. Who do they have this year? They're starting.
But they're
starting
expensive just to be a serviceable guy.
But they have money.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I'm saying, dude. They're going to start a minor league pitcher over a mildly too expensive Dallas Keuchel, whose ceiling is a Cy Young winner, because he won a Cy Young award.
Good points. I mean, I'm not ruling out him coming back to the Astros still.
I think it's the most likely landing spot. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's really surprising, isn't it?
What other headline pitchers are there? I mean, Corbin was signed. Eovaldi was signed. Kikuchi was signed.
You just learned who he was today.
Yeah.
No, Hyun-Jin Ryu signed his qualifying offer with the Dodgers, so he's there. Okay. Yeah, which I think was the right move, and also good for Hyun-Jin Ryu being an inspirational South Korean ball player. Love him. I
mean, it's really just Keuchel left.
Yeah, pretty much. I was when you were talking previously, I was combing through the remaining unsigned free agents to see if there was anyone like really big I should bring up, and like there's names people would recognize. Marwin Gonzalez isn't signed yet, but in terms of like pitchers, Doug Fister sucks. Edwin Jackson sucks. Clay Buchholz is still a great name. He still had a couple really great seasons, but he's not a guy you should be banking on by any means. He's at the end of his career. And Dallas Keuchel, I mean, that's kind of... Jeremy Hellickson's out there if you want him. Bartolo Colon's there doing his thing. Wade Miley. But, like, these aren't guys you go, fuck, man, I need Wade Miley. You know?
Yeah. Yep. You were saying Edwin Jackson earlier, and I was like, I don't know why, but I immediately thought of Edwin Encarnacion, and you said he was not a good player. I was about to stab you in the throat. But
Edwin Encarnacion rocks. Yeah. Love him. Edwin Jackson seems like a really cool dude, but is not a great ball player.
What, he was on the A's last year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he filled a role, I guess. I think the AL is relatively going to be unchanged from next year. I think the wild card race is going to be really it. I don't think there's a single interesting division race that could be possibly looked at right now. I know we said that something funky could happen with the AL Central, but until something does happen with that, I don't think it's anything to really be like, watch out for it, you know?
We also forgot to mention that Edwin Encarnacion now plays for the Seattle Mariners.
Oh, he does. That's right. Good for him.
Bad for the Indians. Again.
Isn't everything
theme in this episode.
Do you have any closing thoughts on the American League?
No, I've voiced my concerns.
Yeah, I think, like I said, it's going to be relatively unchanged. It'll be a fight for the AL East top spot, as it kind of has been for the past 2 years. I'll say 2 years. I don't want to be overly generous to the Yankees as a homer. But
really,
by and large, I mean, players have shuffled around, but I don't think any comments from last year are untrue this year, in that the Red Sox bullpen's still a question. The Rays are still poor. The A's are still poor. The Astros are still amazing. So, I mean, I think pretty much every storyline that existed last year in the American League is going to remain that storyline this year in the American League.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
yep, I agree with that.
All right, so let's get started on the National League then.
Yep. NL East is my first one.
I would, yeah. Why not? That's the order we did the other one in. So let's start with the division winner from that one, the
Miami
Atlanta
Marlins.
Braves.
Oh.
Ha. Funny jokes.
Hey-o.
The Braves signed Brian McCann, Nick Markakis, and Josh Donaldson. I like this a lot.
Oh, yeah. I'm a big fan
I
of
like
it.
this so much. I mean, I know it's not much, and I know that they lost Anibal Sanchez is no longer on the team, and I think one other starting pitcher might not be there, but I can't remember who it is. But by and large, I mean, their only competition is going to be if the Mets can actually pull it off, which I think is fair that they could, and if the Nationals can fix theirs. I think that the Braves are a solid team. Coming into the season, I think that these moves objectively make them better. And outside of pitching concerns, I think hitting-wise, this team's great.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I mean, I don't think Brian McCann adds too much at this stage of his career. Nick Markakis is still the same guy he was last year, at a decent value for them. I love the Josh Donaldson signing, especially if he can come back to being what he is. Yeah, I mean, offensively, they're going to be one of the best teams in baseball. Pitching-wise,
Big question
sure,
mark.
yeah. I mean, they have pitchers. I mean, they have guys on their roster that are being paid to pitch a ball. I don't know how good they're going to be, but yeah, I mean, I could see them finishing up right back at the top of this division next year.
Yeah, the reason I like it, and you kind of just touched on it, is that one of the reasons the Braves are in the position that they are in is because their farm system for the past, 3 or 4 years has been, I mean, top 5 in baseball. I mean, their farm system is so good. And we saw that with Ronald Acuna coming up this year, and Ozzie Albies coming up last year, and they've got, I'm sure, other younger dudes that are possibly on the way that are ready to make an impact at some capacity. And that's why I like these 3 signings, because these are 3 veteran dudes that are probably at the end of their careers, but still, I mean, these are 3 dudes you can rely upon to give leadership and to do their jobs. These are very much so professional baseball players. So that's why I like them. Also, they're going to need Sean Newcomb to be better, but that's a side note.
I mean, just looking at their top prospects in Baseball America's top 100, they have 5 pitchers in the top 80.
Oh, that's amazing.
I mean, Touki Toussaint we saw last year, Toussaint, however you pronounce it. He was very good last year. Mike Soroka, again, very good last year after he was called up. They're ranked 25 and 53. So we'll see what these other guys have to offer. I mean, they should have a pretty decent young class of pitchers this upcoming season. So best of luck to them.
Yeah, why not? So let's move over to the Phillies then, because I think they finished second. They signed David Robertson, Andrew McCutchen, Sugar Shane Robinson, which is a very bad minor league player, and one other minor league player. So really just 2 major leaguers in David Robinson and Andrew McCutchen. How do you feel about these only 2 moves?
I mean, Andrew McCutchen is a god and cannot be touched in terms
I love
of
him so
my
much.
fandom.
Love him so much.
I hate that he's wearing a red P on his hat now instead of a yellow one. But I think, great signing. Love the guy. Hopefully he can have a little bit of a bounce back this year. I know you know a lot more about David Robertson than I do.
I actually think Kutch had a pretty fair season last year. At least when I got to see him with the Yankees. No. I now, to my understanding, he did better with the Yankees last season than he did with the Giants.
He was not good with the Giants.
Part of that. Yeah, part of that could just be because Yankee Stadium is significantly smaller than what is now Oracle Park, although it was previously last season AT&T Park, as they changed naming rights. But the man's got a great eye. He's going to make their defense so much better, like right off the bat.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially sorry, you finish what you're saying. Mine goes
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, especially if they can land Harper, which is what I've heard them rumored to be able to do.
Yeah, my thing was just getting Rhys Hoskins the fuck out of left field. Because, Jesus Christ, they have so many first basemen.
Oh, jeez. You're not
and David Robertson's great. I love David Robertson. He is, although not one of the greatest Yankees of my lifetime, one of my favorite Yankees of recent memory. Phenomenal dude. Great ball player. I mean, he's got such a head for the game. He's got great command, a great pitch selection. He's one of the most gifable players I've ever seen. And when I say he's a good dude, he is a good. Like when he gave reasons for why he picked the Phillies, one of the first 3 things he mentioned was their charitable work, which I've never heard any player mention ever as a reason to go to a team in free agency. He is really. I have such a special place in my heart for David Robertson. I wish him nothing but the best. Like, I'm so excited for him to get to close again.
I mean, that's how I feel about Andrew McCutchen. Just nothing but the best.
Yeah.
Hope he has a tremendous year in Philly. You know, I'm still going to wear his jersey every single chance I get.
They made their team so much more likable with these 2 signings.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, so let's go to the Nationals, who did quite a bit. They have Brian Dozier. They signed Kurt Suzuki, Anibal Sanchez, Trevor Rosenthal, Patrick Corbin, I forgot about that, and Matt Adams. So there's a lot here. These are all major league deals. And let me just do some really quick math, because if you total up the value of these contracts, that's almost $175 million right there. Well, it's almost $200 million, because it's $140 million from Patrick Corbin, and then about $20 million to Anibal Sanchez, which is bizarre, and then another $20 million to Kurt Suzuki and Brian Dozier. Yeah, that's a lot of money they added this offseason. What do you make of it?
I mean, re-signing Matt Adams is what it is. He was above average last year, nothing exceptional. Patrick Corbin is a huge get, especially if he can continue the season that he had last year. Brian Dozier, let's see if he just has a couple more years in him. You know, I'm not super excited for I'm not super looking forward to seeing the end of his career come so soon, like it kind of showed last year. So hopefully he can stretch that out a little bit. As far as Kurt Suzuki, again, not much left in the tank. Not a huge signing, I don't think. And then as far as Trevor Rosenthal and Anibal Sanchez, kind of sure, I guess. I mean, I'm not really torn either way on either one of those guys, so we'll see.
Yeah, Anibal Sanchez would have to. He had a bounce back season last season. Last season's not the standard Anibal Sanchez. That was the turnaround. Oh wow, that's a great season from a Anibal Sanchez kind of season. So he would need to do that again for this to be remotely worth it. I'm actually quite surprised because he's also not young, isn't he? 36.
I just pulled up his baseball reference page. He is 35 in like a month. He'll be 35 by the start of spring training.
All right, so close enough. Yeah. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I think it's a little bit weird because if you ask me what the Nationals needed, starting pitching wouldn't have been my pick even before they signed. Well, I mean, everyone can always use starting pitching. But especially after signing Patrick Corbin, I really can't say, wow, they really need to go spend $20 million on another starting pitcher. I'm not saying it's bad. I mean, Anibal Sanchez is serviceable. I think that's fine. Yeah, it just kind of is what it is. One of the things that's not listed here is that they also acquired Yan Gomes. So they have Yan Gomes and Kurt Suzuki, which is interesting. I'm very interested in seeing how that I can't even call it a platoon really because they're both right-handed hitters, aren't they? Unless Kurt Suzuki's left-handed, I just don't know about it.
Yan Gomes is a switch hitter.
Oh, then I guess that makes even less sense actually. Anyway, I think in short, the Nationals underperformed this year, and I would expect them to perform at their closer to their estimations than they did. So I'd say they're going to be, on paper, the biggest competition to the previous division-winning Braves. But yeah, I mean, they're a good team.
I just looked up his baseball reference page for Yan Gomes. Do you know what they have down as his nickname?
Yanni.
Obi-Yan.
Really?
Yeah, that was great.
Oh, that's funny. All right, so let's move on down to the Mets. Our fourth-place Mets, they re-signed Juris Familia. They signed... Oh, Rajay Davis. I didn't realize that. They signed Jet Lowry, a bunch of minor leaguers, Justin Wilson, and Wilson Ramos. What do you think?
I mean, I would say Wilson Ramos is the only guy here that I think is significant.
Oh, let me also add that they did trade for Robinson Cano.
Oh, that is true. I mean, Jed Lowry is a nice pickup. I like Wilson Ramos. I like Robinson Cano for what he has left in the tank. I mean, I don't think it's going to make the Mets a competitive team in any stretch. But, not a bad signing. Group of signings, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, all these signings are definitely good. The Mets had terrible luck last season with both of their starting catchers getting injured, so they were using two minor league catchers, which hampered the offensive and defensive production from those positions. Their defense was bad, and their hitting was bad. Their pitching was fine. Their bullpen was bad, but their starting pitching was good. So these moves all seem to reflect that. I think they all make sense. The thing I'm a little bit confused about, though, is that they're now sporting 3 second basemen, and I have no idea what they're planning on doing about that. Because they have Jeff McNeil, the minor leaguer they called up last year, who played very well. Mm-hmm. Then they traded for Robinson Cano, and then they signed Jed Lowry. So now they have 3 second basemen. They're supposed to, according to what everyone thinks the timeline is, be calling up Peter Alonso this year to play first base for them. So I imagine you wouldn't want to logjam him in the year he was supposed to come up and be productive, unless you planned on trading him, which I don't know why you would do that. Right. They don't have a no. They have someone. They still have Nick Ahmed at shortstop. Ahmed Rosario. Sounds so similar. So they have Ahmed Rosario playing short. They still have 1 year left of Todd Frazier at third. I wouldn't feel bad, or if I was the Mets, about putting someone at that position in lieu of him. But then one of these three guys isn't going to be playing, because I'd assume you'd want to keep what did I just say his name was? Ahmed Rosario at short. Then you want two of Lowry, Cano, and McNeil playing second and third, and then I would assume at some point you're going to want to call up Peter Alonso to play first. So I'm guessing they're going to end up using Lowry as a utility guy, would be my assumption. Put McNeil at third, put Cano at second, and then yeah, like I said, Jed Lowry is your day off. You need to go play second guy, I guess.
Realistically, I could see them just postponing Alonso's call-up for most of the season, and then just keeping either Lowry or Cano at first, maybe switching them around. I don't know. I think this is actually a good problem for the Mets compared to all of the other problems they seem to be facing every year. I mean, hey, your team is so injury-riddled every year, might as well have an extra player to fill in the gaps.
I think once again you've made a phenomenal point in that we're usually talking about how the Mets have no one to play any position, and now we're talking about the Mets having too many viable major leaguers. So you're right. In terms of the previous Mets seasons, this is a very, very good problem to have.
I mean, how old is Cano now? 36? Holy shit.
Yeah, but he's still so good. He's still just so good.
But like,
he is immediately the best player, the best batter they have on that team. Immediately.
I mean, still though, like Lowry's 34, Cano's 36. Those aren't exactly the healthiest guys on any team.
No, I think that they're more so there as stopgap players to try to get some kind of level of competitiveness out of a team that's in an in-between where they have really great starting pitching right now, but they don't have their minor league position players ready right now. So why not get a couple? I think it makes sense. I think Brody's done a much better job than I was anticipating thus far. But let's spend some time talking about our good friends, the Miami Marlins, who have signed 2 minor league players and no one else. So, is there anything to say about the Miami Marlins right now?
I mean, they're going to be once again battling the Orioles for being the laughingstock of the league. I think we're 1 year closer to seeing Derek Jeter becoming a laughingstock. No biggie.
No, because next season he gets into the Hall of Fame.
We'll see about that.
I don't think it's
not if my vote has anything to do with it.
Corwin, they don't count your vote.
Well,
you send it in every year, but no one acknowledges it. No, actually, honestly, the Marlins are in such a better spot than the Orioles. It's not even funny. Don't forget, people, the Orioles didn't sign international free agents. Like, they refused for years to sign international free agents. They don't have any up until last season. Like, the Marlins just signed Victor Mesa and Victor Mesa Jr., considered the 2 best international prospects in the world, and signed both of them. Like, the Marlins are not going to be good, and I would, if you asked me to pick over under 65 wins, I'd probably take the under. But the Marlins are in such a better position than the Orioles, it's not even funny. The Orioles are so fucked. Anyway, who do you pick to win this division?
I think most importantly, we need to talk about them signing 2 dudes named Victor Mesa and Victor Mesa Jr., who are brothers.
Yes. Their father named both of them Victor. And he named one of them Victor twice.
What's fucking wrong with him?
Well, it's like George Foreman. George Foreman named all of his kids George, and then all of his female kids Georgia. My buddy Dan, his dad's name is Wilfredo, and he named his firstborn son Wilfredo, and then he tried to name my friend Wilfredo, and then his mother was like, Fredo, stop it. This is a bad name. We're not naming all of our kids Wilfredo.
Oh, jeez.
People are weird.
Victor.
Who would you pick to win this division?
I'm actually going to put my money on the Phillies.
I think that there really are 2.5 viable options for this between. Actually, no. I think if you picked anyone but the Marlins, you have a reasonable argument to make. Really, I truly think. I'm going to pick the Nationals just because I think they're the most all-around complete team, and I think less would need to break their way for them to take it. They have better hitting. They have better starting pitching. They have a good bullpen. So I don't think they would need so much to go right for them, so much as they would need to avoid things going wrong for them. But really, if you made your argument for the Phillies, if we had a Mets fan here making an argument for the Mets and a Braves fan here making an argument for the Braves, I think all of them would be cogent arguments.
Yep, I agree with you on that.
So let's jump into then the NL Central, shall we?
Yeah, why not? You want to start with the Bucks?
Well, wait, the Bucks? You mean that's basketball?
No, the Pirates.
Oh, well, I thought you meant Milwaukee, since Milwaukee won the division.
Yeah, no, we could start with Milwaukee.
So let's do the Brew Crew. Where's the page I'm looking for? Because I have 10,000 fucking things open. Okay, the Brewers, they signed. Oh, that's right. They did sign Yasmani Grandal. So they signed Yasmani Grandal and Corey Spangenberg. Who the fuck are you? Jesus, Corey Spangenberg. To a major league deal.
To Victor, and Victor, but Spangenberg? Come on.
Yeah, dude. Oh, my God. So what do you think of these only two? Oh, no, there's one more guy there. Jake Petritska, who I don't know who that is either. But anyway, what do you think of these guys?
I mean, Corey Spandenberg, what a guy. I'm guarantee you I will never say or hear that name again. I will say Yasmani Grandal. Hey, man, you lose out on Jonathan Lucroy. I think he was in was he in Milwaukee last year?
No, Lucroy was with the A's last year.
Okay, my bad. But yeah, I mean, can't say enough good things about him. All-star, great hitter, not so great a catcher as far as framing, but that is the extent of all the information I know on Yasmani Grandal.
No, he's a good framer.
Oh, Jesus, I don't even fucking know anything anymore.
That's okay. I wouldn't worry about it. I really wouldn't. Yeah, they improved at catching position. I think literally any team who signed Yasmani Grandal, bar like 5, would have improved their catching position by signing him because he is one of the 5 best catchers in baseball. I'm a little bit surprised that they have not signed more pitchers, as they lost Wade Miley, which I know isn't a big deal because it's only Wade Miley, but that's a starting pitcher that they no longer have. So I was expecting them. They also employ the opener strategy and bullpen days, and they did a bunch of things with pitching because they were desperate. They don't have a lot of starting pitchers. I was expecting them to do more. I'm not saying that they won't be good still because their team is very good. And I'm still expecting them to make moves throughout the rest of the offseason and through the regular season because to keep in mind they are not a big market team. They're working on a smaller budget. But they have great ownership, and I think that the ownership really wants to see some wins this season, and they're going to do their damnedest to get it, and that's great. So while these aren't huge moves, and there's only one name here I recognize, I think this is a win of an offseason for the Brew Crew.
Just looking at their depth chart right now, their offense next year is going to be one of the best in baseball. Their starting 5 is going to be rough. Ulyss Chasson, Chase Anderson, Zach Davies, and Jimmy Nelson, with the 5th spot being up to anyone who can actually pitch a ball.
I'd honestly bet it's going to be a bullpen game that day.
Yeah.
At least as of right now. Maybe they have a minor league guy that I don't know about, but... Yeah, I mean, I think that none of those 5 pitchers are bad. I just don't think any of those 5 pitchers are, like, really good.
Yeah,
I think
that. I don't
it
know.
seems like a team full of, like, 3rd and 4th starters, you know?
Yeah. I don't
anyway.
know how they're going to win this division again without any pitching.
I'm very confident that they will make, I think, more mid-season moves than off-season moves, but I definitely think that it's not the final form of the team. Although when can you ever say any team's at its final form in baseball?
Exactly.
But anyway, let's go to the Cubs. So they signed Danny Descalso, they signed Brad Brock, they signed Kendall Graveman, and Kyle Ryan. Those last 2 names I do not know, and they signed for less than $600,000 each. So, what do you make of these?
I mean, I feel like the only 2 guys of note are Descalso and Brock. And
yeah, of course. Yeah.
Both of them are just kind of... I mean, the Cubs are good enough of a team where they can just add mid-level signees and not really change their status much. And I don't think it does. I think they're right where they were last year, just picking up where they left off.
Yeah, I mean, between these 4 guys, they spent barely over, I think, a $10 or $11 million here. These are just, we needed to fill out some spots. We needed a little bit of depth. We did a little bit. They are a very, very good team. They underperformed last year, but they're still a very, very good team, and I wouldn't worry about them if I was a Cubs fan. I understand that they, every fan base wants their team to spend big money, and they wanted to go sign Harper or Machado or whatever. But just like, as a Yankees fan, my team's still going to be good if they don't sign those guys. I get it. You wanted them to. If they don't, it is what it is. So that team's still primed to do well. The next team down would be the Cardinals. They signed Adam Wainwright. Shocker. And Andrew Miller. Yeah, I mean, I think the Cardinals had a phenomenal second half. I don't see the need for them to have done much. Oh, they also traded for Paul Goldschmidt, which is a huge improvement for, again, everyone but maybe 5 teams in the league, because I don't think there's 5 better first basemen than Paul Goldschmidt. He is...
I would argue that number is much smaller than 5.
Yeah, and you'd be right.
Yeah.
Like he's so fucking good. Like, that team was scary as fuck in the second half of last year. Just got scarier. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I love Andrew Miller like a father. Paul Goldschmidt's Goldie. I mean, there's not much you can say about him. I definitely think they are contending for this division right now, especially if they can get their starting pitching worked out. They filled some holes, and I hate the Cardinals so much. They are my least favorite team in baseball. I don't like that they added such good players, but fuck, they are who they are.
I know you hate them, and I was about to say I kind of love the Cardinals because they're this. No,
So
because
you're
they're
a
such an
fan, and you like seeing other teams suffer.
No, because I think it's so fascinating how they're definitely a small market team, and yet always competitive. They are always competitive.
Yeah.
They're never seemingly bad, and I think that is just fascinating because it's such a baseball town, St. Louis. I have such a respect for it. So while you know what, I actually think I'm much more neutral to the Cardinals. I just really, really respect that organization because it's really impressive. And I know that I'm not going to spend much more time on it because I know you really hate them. So we're just going to move on. So the Pirates, Corwin's Team A, they signed Jordan Lyles, Jung-Ho Sang, Lonnie Chisenhall, and one minor league dude. Well, you're the Pirates guy. What do you think?
Surprisingly, they didn't sign anybody of note, which is truly the Pittsburgh way. Kang was previously with the Pirates organization, was kicked out of the country for getting too many DUIs and extradited back to Korea. So I'm not super excited to have him back with the team. He was average with us the first time around, and he looked very bad last year when he had a short stint with us late in the season. So, I mean, he's going to be behind Colin Moran at third regardless. Lonnie Chisenhall is basically just going to be our utility outfielder filling in where needed. I mean, he's not going to knock any one of our big 3 guys in the outfield out. I don't know. I mean, the Pirates aren't going to be great this year. They've got some pieces here and there, but they don't. I wouldn't say that they are strong in any one category.
Yeah, at this point, it's hard to ever be surprised that the Pirates don't do anything. I mean, in some respects, I also get it because maybe you thought that you could compete for the wild card spot, assuming that the Cubs were going to win the division because the Brewers didn't seem like they were really going anywhere, and the Cardinals didn't seem like they were really going anywhere, and then all of a sudden... I mean, that makes sense for last season because they did stuff last offseason, and then all of a sudden the Brewers and the Cardinals both decide, I want to be good, and just skyrocketed their production. So I do, I guess, get it to an extent where it's like, we're not going to win, why bother try? But then it's like, if you don't try, you're not going to win, so pick a lane.
Yeah, I mean, there were buyers at the deadline last year when they were very clearly not going to make the playoffs, so... I don't know what they're trying to do. We'll see. I can't say I'm super excited to watch them this year, though.
I don't blame you in the slightest. Yeah.
I'm here for Tyone, Marte, and Cervelli. That's it.
Oh, well, who doesn't love Francisco Cervelli? Dude seems like just such a righteous guy.
Mm-hmm.
So that brings us to the Reds, who are not on the MLB trade rumors tracker because they haven't actually signed any free agents, but they have been remarkably active this offseason in trades. Starting with, and I found this really like way too detailed page just on the Reds transactions list, so I might miss some stuff because I'm going to have to skim a little bit because it's super specific. But from what I can tell, the first thing that they did was they traded for Tanner Roark from Washington. Then they had the big 7-player deal with the Dodgers where they got Yasiel Puig. They also got a catcher by the name of Kyle Farmer. They got Matt Kemp.
Alex Wood.
They got Alex Wood. And I think that was it. I think that's the 4 that they got, and then they sent 3 over. They also signed, or traded for, I should say, Sonny Gray from the Yankees. I think that those are the big ones. So we have Sonny Gray, Alex Wood, Yasiel Puig, Matt Kemp, Kyle Farmer, I don't know. But one would know him. And Tanner Roark. So we got a couple starting pitchers, some bats. What do you think about this?
They actually look like a team this year. Surprising to say, like their outfield is still kind of on the bottom of the barrel when it comes to MLB outfields, with essentially just Puig as, I would say, MLB caliber. Their infield is surprisingly good now. I mean, I say now. I mean, I don't think anything changed in their infield. It's still just as good, but they have a rotation now. I mean, they have DeScalfani, Castillo, Rourke, Gray, and Wood as a solid starting 5.
And Gray.
Oh, fuck. And Gray. Jesus. I think I said Gray.
Oh, maybe I just wasn't paying attention. I was trying to read and listen. I could be my bad.
That's what it is.
Yeah. I know they're getting killed a little bit because everyone that they traded for is in the last year of their contract, though they did extend Sonny Gray, and everyone's like, why are you doing this? And I think that the reason is that people try to get rid of players on the last year of their contract, which means that they'll give you a player that they don't want and prospects. And that's pretty much what the Reds want. So, I mean, I think that this is... I think it's great, honestly. I think that Cincinnati is also very much so a baseball town above all else. It's where professional baseball kind of started, with the Reds being the first major league team. And I think the ownership wants them to be good. And they're trying to field a team and build for the future. And I think this was a great way of doing it. I definitely think that this is a sign that they're going to make possibly more aggressive moves in the future. I think next offseason we might see more activity in long-term deals and free agency over trades if they feel as though they can be competitive within the division this year. Because I don't think any of these moves really preclude them from doing it. Like, having 1 year, these guys lets you think to yourself, all right, well, if we can win 85 games with, this team of 1-year deal okay players, if we really go for it next year, get some more marquee players in here from free agency, make some more marquee trades, maybe we could push that to 90 wins. And now it becomes a whole mode of thought. So I think this makes a lot of sense. And above all else, I think it's fucking fun, man. I think this is it's some team actually doing something remotely fucking interesting, which I think is nice. So I'm all in favor of it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So shall we jump to our final division, the NL West?
Well, who do you think's going to win this division?
Oh, that's right. You're right. I forgot to ask. My brain says the Cubs. My heart says the Brewers. What about you?
My heart says the Pirates. My brain says anyone but the Pirates, most likely the Cubs.
Yeah, I think this is going to be the Cubs division to lose for a while here. I think the Cardinals are also a strong option, but
I think they're still like a year or two away.
yeah, I think that's totally fair. So now let's go to the NL West.
Yep, let's do it.
So as I mentioned the Dodgers previously because they traded away 4 players that were starting regular players for them to the Reds. They also made some. In addition to their trade, they sent Homer Bailey to the Dodgers, who I would be shocked if he throws a fucking ball in Dodger Stadium. Homer Bailey is one of the weirdest ball players in existence. His name sounds like he's from 1880. He is very bad at pitching and has 2 perfect games.
Yeah, I think so.
Right? Now, the perfect games are no hitters. Like, he has more than 1. But his career ERA is like 5. Like, it's...
His career ERA is 4.56. His 2018 ERA was 6.09, with paired nicely with a negative 1.5 WAR.
Oof. Can you easily find how many no-hitter / perfect games he has?
Yeah, I'm looking for it now. I have a feeling that Baseball Reference just has an entire section based off of that.
Yeah, this is actually the one thing I like going to Wikipedia for because they have it just so nicely laid out in that column.
Yeah.
He has
Right,
they're no hitters, 2 no hitters, 2012 and 2013.
Yep. There you go. I don't know how, but he does.
Yeah. Regardless, he's not good, so I don't think it matters, but I figured I'd bring it up. They also signed Joe Kelly to a major league contract. They signed A.J. Pollock, David Freese, and Hyun-Jin Ryu signed his qualifying offer. So, I really like these moves. What do you think?
I agree. I think this definitely made their team better. I have a soft spot for David Freese just because he was on the Bucks for a couple years. But, I mean, Joe Kelly strengthens that already pretty deep rotational bullpen. A.J. Pollock is honestly a better replacement for Yasiel Puig. Rue, I mean, I know the Dodgers always have their issues with staying healthy with starting pitchers, but I think he's always going to be their kind of end of the rotation guy when everybody's healthy. So $18 million I think is a little pricey for him, but at the same time, why not sign a guy that you know can pitch well in LA?
Yeah, I think the qualifying offer makes sense because Rue is a really good pitcher when he's healthy, but he has health issues. Plus, with how weak the offseason has been, I mean, I think it makes sense for all sides. I like Rue a lot, in part because he is South Korean, and I want as many nations as possible to be sending their ball players to the U.S. I think it's great for the sport, and I love baseball, and want it to be played everywhere. So, thank you, Hyun-Jin Ryu, for being great. But no, I think that, yeah, like you said, Pollock replacing Puig is an upgrade provided Pollock can stay healthy. I think Freese is a great ball player, and there's no reason to feel bad about having him on your team. Kelly will be interesting to see if he maintains the season from last year because I don't think he's that good. I think he throws really hard and stayed healthy and somehow had it work out for him last year. I think I credit that more to the Red Sox pitching staff than I do Joe Kelly. But if they believe that they can get what the Red Sox got out of him last year, as the Dodgers are a very analytical organization, then it makes sense. I don't like long-term deals for dudes who rely on velocity, like the Yankees did with Aroldis Chapman, although I guess it's kind of worked out. I mean, kind of. He's the highest-paid closer in baseball. I'm not sure it's exactly worth that, but...
What's his salary?
I think it was 5 years and like $86 million was the contract.
That's not terribly high.
It's not terrible It's not great because he has not stayed healthy and has been bad for some stretches, but it's not. It doesn't matter. We're not talking about the Yankees. Um, the Dodgers are good. They will be good next year. They will probably win the division. They will not be bad. These moves are all good, involve good players. The Dodgers are good. Yeah.
Nice argument you had with yourself there, Josh.
Yeah, I mean there's nothing. Yeah, there's nothing else to say.
Dodgers good.
The Dodgers are good. I have the Diamondbacks right here, so why don't we just transition right into them? They signed Merrill Kelly. Who the fuck are you? Wilmer Flores and Eduardo Escobar.
These are some pretty good signings. I mean, I like signing Eduardo Escobar. He kind of had a resurgent year last year. Wilmer Flores is what it is. Again, Merrill Kelly is the next Mike Trout. Never mind, he's a starting pitcher. What the fuck do I know? I mean, I don't know. This is okay. It's not really filling any of the holes left by Pollock, left by Owings, left by Goldschmidt. So I don't see how they perform anywhere close to what they did last year. But
last year they were quite bad.
Yeah, which is saying something.
Yeah, I think that's really what these moves are. Outside of the Eduardo Escobar contract, which is 3 years, $21 million, which really then isn't even that much. $7 million AAV is really not much to a team. The Yankees just gave more than that to DJ LeMahieu, who they're planning on using as a utility player. So they didn't commit much money. I see this as really just trying to fill out the roster more than anything else. I don't think they plan on being good this year or care to be good this year. So I don't think there's much to say about the Diamondbacks.
I mean, just looking at their depth chart, this is a rough team. I mean, outside of Zach Greinke, they have nobody of note. I mean, they really don't. Like, their second best pitcher, well, none of their pitchers really were good last year in any sense of the word outside of Greinke. I mean, Walker is coming off of Tommy John. Zach Godley, Robbie Ray, and Luke Weaver all had very underperforming years. That's really kind of been their saving grace these last couple of years, and I just don't see them pitching well this year.
Yeah, I think they're going to fight with the Giants over who finishes last in that division because it's going to be Dad-tober for the Padres, baby. But anyway, let's move on to the Giants.
You're one of the worst people I know.
And I embrace it. They signed Pat Venditti, Derek Holland, and Drew Pomerantz. Do you give a shit?
No, I don't.
I don't either. Derek Holland and Drew Pomerantz both play baseball, and Pat Venditti tries to. So I mean, the Giants don't pretend on being good next year. Let me ask you this, though. Do you think that they will trade Madison Bumgarner next year?
I hope so. I think they
I'm
will.
torn on this. I'm very torn.
Your reasoning?
On the one hand, it's the right long-term baseball operations move to make because you probably shouldn't re-sign him because you're not going to be good for a while, and so why not recoup your value? On the other hand, the Giants are a very, very proud baseball organization. They take great pride in having their marquee franchise player being with that franchise for life. Willie Mays never wore a different uniform. They wouldn't let Bonds go until he wanted to go. Well, really, he kind of got forced out at the end, but I mean, that's kind of, I feel like the Giants got forced into that deal. But like they really do value having their star players being in a Giants jersey for life, and I really, really respect that. While I hate the Giants, so fuck them. So on the one hand, it makes sense for them to trade him just cold on paper. I'm not sure I want them to, though, because I respect that they do what they do.
I mean, if you do trade him, you're going to have to wait until he shows signs of being the same Madison Bumgarner that he was prior to his ATV accident, because he did not show it last year, and I don't think other teams would be willing to pay the kind of price that the Giants would want back until he kind of shows some of that promise again.
But then the question becomes, if you decide not to trade him, then you have to re-sign him in my eyes, because then why else didn't you trade him?
Exactly.
So if you don't trade him, now you're committing to re-signing him, and that becomes a whole hornet's nest there. So I'm interested in seeing what they'll do. I'm not exactly excited to see what they'll do, but I'm interested in seeing what they'll do. Yeah. Let's shoot on down to the Rockies, because I want to close with the Padres. So, Rockies. Oh, wow. One guy, Daniel Murphy.
Still, not a bad quality over quantity, I guess.
I guess they're banking on their starting pitching being good again next year, which
somehow
isn't unfair. I mean, Kyle Freeland's had a great season last year, and it was trending up for a while, and John Gray had a down year, so if he can kind of come back to form a little bit, he could be good. And what's the name of
Marquez was phenomenal.
Thank you. German Marquez was really, really special. So, I get it. I'm really, really disappointed they didn't sign a catcher. Like, they had Jonathan Lucroy on the market. They had Yasmani Grandal on the market. Apparently, Yan Gomes was up for grabs. You could have even got one of the older bats like Kurt Suzuki or Brian McCann. Like, this was a great offseason to pick up a catcher. And that was it's a black hole for the Rockies for, like, ever. And I don't get why they didn't do it.
They really like 35-year-old Chris Iannetta, I guess, you know? He's their guy. I do know that they have a younger catching prospect that they are excited for, Tony Walters. So we'll see what happens there.
I guess. I mean, I don't think that they're going to be bad this upcoming. It's so tough because the last taste that they left in my mouth was them getting swept via shutout in every single game in the playoffs. So that's not good. But I do think that they're built to be competitive and have a decent chance of doing so.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
So shall we move on to our final team, the Padres?
Yep, I think it's time.
Okay, so the Padres, they signed two players, Garrett Richards and Ian Kinsler. What do you think?
I mean, Ian Kinsler, again, kind of like I said with Brian Dozier, just he's older, very much on the wrong side of his peak, I guess. I mean, I don't expect too much from him, especially on the Padres. Garrett Richards, I'm intrigued by, just by the promise he showed when he's healthy. The issue being, I don't think I've ever seen him healthy. You know, it's the Padres. I have pretty low expectations. So,
well, isn't Garrett Richards out all of this upcoming year with with Tommy John surgery?
Did he really have Tommy John surgery again?
Wasn't that him?
Yeah, he underwent Tommy John surgery in late July.
So yeah, he's out all of next year. So they're basically paying him to not play baseball this year, and then to hopefully play baseball decently well next year. The Padres are in an interesting spot. They're in kind of the position the Braves were in, I'll say 2 years ago maybe, where they have... Bless you.
Sorry.
No worries. They have an acceptable... not even. They have a subpar starting roster right now, but they have a phenomenal farm system with several dudes ready to come up. Urias is ready to come up and play second base, and Tatis Jr. is ready to come up and play shortstop. Like, those two dudes are probably for sure going to come up at the same time and look. And they have that the catcher that they stole from the Indians. What's his name?
Yan Gomes. Oh, Maia.
Francisco Maia.
Yep.
Who played great in the short stint he had up in September. I know Eric Hosmer is kind of a joke because they signed him to way too much money and then he didn't play well, but he still has the potential to be a good, I'll say good, first baseman. So if those players all come up and all have the seasons that I think we would hope to see them have, that's not a bad spot to be in. Their infield would then look pretty good. They'd still need to get a viable third base option, which I think is perfectly accomplishable. And then just try to find some pieces for the outfield, which I don't know what their minor leagues farm system looks like right now outside of those two players I had previously mentioned. But maybe they have some guys that they can try to play out in there or make some midseason acquisitions. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs this year just because a lot would have to break in their favor. But I'd say that they're in a favorable spot. I really think that this is the turning point for the Padres organization this season.
I don't think I'm convinced enough to say that this year is their turning point. I will definitely agree that they are in a much better position now than they have been in quite a long time.
Who do you think would compete soonest between the Padres, Giants, and Diamondbacks?
Man, that is just a terrible, terrible question. I think if I had to bet on it, I would say the Giants, just because I could more easily see their older players having a little bit of a renaissance rather than either one of the Diamondbacks or Padres prospects immediately making an impact. I will say if we're going just off of prospects, I would probably say the Padres.
I think I would pick the Padres either way. I think I think the Diamondbacks are fucked, and they're probably not going to be good for a while. I think the Giants need to tear down, but at the same time, they have the money to do whatever the fuck they want. So, I mean, they're going to need to tear down just so that they can get rid of the old players to make room for the young ones that they will eventually buy. But they have the ability to turn themselves around via capital way faster than the Padres do. But I just think that the Padres are in such a good spot since they have no money committed to anybody aside from Eric Hosmer, that if they show signs of life next season, this upcoming season, the next offseason, I could really see that ownership group spending money. And I think that would be so cool. So I'm in on the Padres. I'm ready to buy Fernando Tatis Jr. jersey in the brown because they're bringing back the brown.
That's what I was going to bring up next. Was that they're bringing
San
back
Diego
the
is going to
jerseys.
become Brown Town.
Yikes!
Oh, that's their slogan.
Do. Fuck you, San Diego.
Oh, I'm ready. Who do you think's going to win this division? As if I really need to ask.
I am insulted that you even asked me that question. Clearly, it's going to be the Diamondbacks, but obviously, it's going to be the Dodgers.
Yeah, it's not even close. Who would you pick as your 5 playoff teams in the National League?
I think it's going to go Dodgers, Cubs, Phillies as the 1, 2, 3. And then I would have the Nationals and the Rockies as the 2 wild cards.
All right, so I'll go Nationals for the NL East. I'll go Nationals, Cubs, and Dodgers, and then for my wild card teams, in this order, I'll say the Cardinals and the Brewers. I think both National League wild card teams are going to come from the Central.
Okay. Not the Phillies, though, right?
Never the Pirates.
Yeah, I figured.
The National League. So, I think the National League is becoming like the American League, where it's going to become top heavy and bottom weak, which is the American League has been for the past couple of years, because the bad teams in the National League got worse, and the good teams in the National League are becoming much better. So, I there's definitely more teams that are in a competition mode right now in the National League, but I don't think it's so severe. So, like the Marlins you can write them off completely. You can write off the Padres. You can write off the Pirates. You can write off the Diamondbacks. You can write off the Giants. So I think it's going to come down to whose season kind of goes the right way here.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Who would you pick as your World Series matchup if I forced you to choose something that's not going to happen for 7 to 8 months?
I mean, I think the probability of having a Yankees-Dodgers World Series is highly likely. As much as I am pained to say that.
I'd be thrilled for that to happen only if it ended like the last time we met in the World Series, where Reggie Jackson hits 3 home runs consecutively. Because wouldn't it be hilarious if Reggie Jackson came out at the age of however the fuck old he is and just smashed some dongs?
In that matchup, I think I'd only be happy if both teams came down with like salmonella poisoning.
I think the only thing that would really make me happy about it is that I love watching Sandy Koufax do things, and then he'd throw out a first pitch again because he's the man, and he's Jewish, and he's from the East Coast, and I love him. So he is the greatest Jewish athlete of all time, and I will buy. I hate the Dodgers. I hate the Dodgers. I would proudly wear a Sandy Koufax jersey. Proudly wear that shit. I love Sandy Koufax. But we're going to move on because I could talk about Jewish people in baseball all day. Go Hank Greenberg.
I just want to say, if I never spoke to you again, in 20 years, I would still know your exact stance on most things just because of how readable you are as a person.
I'm very upfront. There's very little behind this. Okay. So one of the talking points for this offseason is that it has been slow. It has been the talking point of last offseason and is now a talking point about going forward. So what do you think is behind the lack of movement amongst free agents and the lack of money going to free agents?
I think it kind of goes back to teams are scared to kind of shell out these giant contracts that a lot of these top free agents are still expecting. I mean, we saw it happen last year. We're kind of seeing it again this year with the low balls that rumored were to the low ball offers that Machado was rumored to have received. I can honestly say that compared to the NFL, I know almost nothing about the contracts with Major League Baseball. This is definitely not my cup of tea. I don't know. Like, it's definitely something that's changing. It's very clearly changing with the kind of money that these players are getting and the kind of contracts they're signing. I just don't know where it's going to end, if that makes sense.
No, it does. And I actually had... I'll give my 2 cents, and then I have a theory I want to run by you that I was thinking about the other day. But so I think for one thing, it's slow because of analytics, which is so unfortunate because I love analytics. They help you understand the game better, and they make it so that you can kind of play GM on your own, and you can get a hardline answer for a lot of things which you were incapable of doing previously. You can now quantify a lot of things you weren't able to quantify before. And it's super fun, and it helps me stay involved and engaged, and I love it. But on the other hand, it tells you the value of a player, which is proving to be bad for the player, because now teams don't want to invest in you just because they know your name. And just because fans will know your name. Because they're going to look at someone who is a rookie or someone serving on a rookie contract, and they're going to say, well, see, he's worth 3 WAR, right? And they're not going to say that. They'll put the traditional numbers out there, but it'll amount to saying, in more words, that guy we're paying $550,000, and we have for 5 more years, is worth only, say, 2 WAR less than you. You know, let's say that's Bryce Harper, right? Because I'll say he's fair to put as being a 5 WAR player in a given year, because that's a very good player. And we don't think that you're going to be worth $26.5 million, so $26 million more per year than that guy who's not making anything in terms of how much our business makes. And I kind of think that's got to be where it's at right now, because we're getting to a point where all teams have adopted the analytics, whereas previously not all teams did. You know, the Orioles are only just getting around there. That's why they offered Chris with a C Davis, that gigantic contract when no one was giving out gigantic contracts because they weren't so up on analytics. Now, don't get me wrong, Chris Davis was a good player before that, and his recent struggles are very much so recency bias. My point is more so that that's a contract that I don't think he would have gotten today if he hit free agency with the same numbers he hit free agency with when he did. And I think that's kind of where teams are at now. So that's great for fans because we can look at it and we can make points and estimations and talk with some level of intelligence on what's happening with the numbers. But I really think it's showing that our star players are performing at a measurable level greater than our average players. And if you can build a good farm system and a good development system, that you can get not the same, but an acceptable to the team amount less than you're getting for a significant to the team reduced price. I think that's where we're at.
Yeah, I mean, you put it so perfectly. I don't really know how to follow that up. Cost analysis is big for any company, and I'm surprised it's taken so long to reach baseball to the extent that it currently is. You know, like a lot of these teams, and not I would say in the past, but I mean, people always do it now, and they do it in every sport. They get attached to the name, and they don't really look at what they're producing, how they're producing it, most importantly, and it ends up leading to bloated contracts and teams overpaying. So as much as I really just want to make sure all these baseball players just make it rich and never have to work another day in their lives, I'm glad this is happening. I'm glad teams are getting smarter with their money and things are bound to even out and be a little more there's going to be a lot more parity, I think, in Major League Baseball as long as this continues.
I'm not happy only because teams are continuing to make more money while curbing the amount that the players are making. And I don't like that. If you told me that your average contract would go down, but the average pay of minor leaguers would go up, then I think that would be fine with me, and I could palate that. But the owners also just forced minor leaguers to make less and did so via the Congress. So I'm not exactly thrilled with MLB ownership. Because we've seen values of all sports franchises across, different sports go up, and the fact that pay for players is going down or at least stabilizing, I think, is less than great. One of the things I was thinking about in terms of, you often hear teams, this is my little theory. I was putting this more as a side note than I am anything else, because I don't think it matters that much. I just wonder what you were thinking. Is sometimes you'd hear that the teams just need star power. They need a big name to draw people out to the stands. You're already shaking your head, and I know. Because I don't think this is a thing anymore. And I feel like every now and then when I was younger, you'd hear about a team sign a marquee player just to put butts in the seats, you know? I don't think anyone cares anymore. I don't think, like, if could you imagine if Mookie Betts signed on with I don't even want to say the Orioles, the Marlins, because they're even worse. Anyone would go to Marlins games? Do you think that would mean anything to the fans?
I don't think it would. I mean, yeah, I mean, we hear it all the time, you know, people go see the Yankees to go see Aaron Judge and go see Giancarlo Stanton. And that's definitely true for some fans who are just there to see the big name players. But I think the major point is just putting together a successful team, regardless of who plays for it. You don't need Mike Trout on your team to get people to come watch. You just need a successful one.
Yeah, I think like the 2014 Kansas City, 2014 Kansas City Royals who won the World Series. Mm-hmm. Name me a player that your average person would know that was on that team.
Mike Moustakas.
I was gonna say we know who Mike Moustakas is. I bet if you asked a non-baseball inclined person, they wouldn't know who Mike Moustakas is. We know who Eric Hosmer is. They wouldn't know who he is. Because that was the team was. There were a bunch of players that they managed to all find a role for and do well and rode that shit to a World Series. Yeah, because I think part of the thing is, like, you don't need the at-home viewing experience is so fucking good. You don't feel compelled to go to the stadium just to see players. And we see that with the NFL, because the NFL is having, I'm not going to say a problem, but I think attendance will probably go down for the NFL as well, only because winters are cold and people get cold and the inside is warm and the things you like to have cold are also cold inside. So people don't care and tickets are so fucking expensive.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be one of the biggest issues going forward for all of these sports teams is just that they think that they can charge whatever they want and people will pay it. And unless you're the Yankees, that's not really true.
Even the Yankees,
free to stay home and watch football in a nice heated room with all the food you could want at reasonable prices. I definitely agree with you that the appeal to going to these games and seeing teams play is not what it used to be.
And don't get me wrong, I'm a huge baseball fan. I go to as many games as I really can in a year. I'm actually going to travel this year to go see the Yankees play in different stadiums. Like I'm a big baseball fan, but I'm going to watch 130 to 140 of these games at my house. You know, and that includes me missing 10 to 15 games because I'm just not going to watch them. Like I'm not going to get to the stadium that much. Also, just total side note, I hate when Yankees fans say that, like, you know how attendance is always bigger at ballparks when the Yankees are in town?
Yeah.
I hate when Yankees fans say, "Oh, it's because the Yankees rule, man." People are there to see the No, it's because it's New York. It's because we have No, not even that. It's not even that. It's because where do you think most people who transplant go from? It's the biggest city in the country. If you moved from somewhere, when I was in Colorado, I met more Boston fans than I met Rockies fans. And I asked a guy about it, and he goes, "Yeah, because a lot of people here move from Boston." Like that's what happens when you if you're gonna. That's why you never meet like Kansas City Royals fans in New York. Because no one goes from Kansas City to New York, but New York people go from New York to everywhere. Like it's that's the point. Like you have a better chance of going to a bar in Missouri, finding someone whose parents moved from Brooklyn down to Missouri for a job like 30 years ago than you do like any other team that isn't a team that plays in Missouri. Like it's a big fucking city. Like that's how it works. It's not because we're really fucking historic. It's because people move. Like, Drives me crazy when I hear Yankees fans say it. Like, I get it. You want to have pride in your team. That's not where it should come from. Away team attendance should not be where your pride in the Yankees comes from.
You guys should raise that banner next year. Put it up in the rafters. Largest away team fan attendance in the league.
The most specific banner since the Predators put up that one for winning the President's Trophy.
God, I'm glad we think of the same things when we're making these references, and that makes me very happy.
Yeah, we're the same person with different voices. So, what do you think it would take to, I'm going to say, quote-unquote, fix the MLB offseason next year, or in years going forward, to where you would see larger contracts more akin to what players are used to getting in free agency?
I'm going to be real with you. I have no fucking clue. Like, I would not even know where to begin.
So, one of the things you always hear is service time, and I definitely think service time needs to go down. Like, for sure, it needs to go down. Like, team control cannot be 6 years anymore. It's just too much. I think 4 has got to be the number. But at the same time, like, we're looking at Harper and Machado right now, who are 26, which is what I assume the average would be now, because usually players drafted out of college are like 21, 22, so you'd expect them to be hitting free agency around 26, 27, maybe 20, even 28. Like, how much younger could they possibly get that it would affect free agency? Because these two dudes aren't making money, at least the kind that they were expecting. And I know they haven't signed yet. And one of them could end up signing a fucking $300 million deal. I think we can both be real here and say it's not going to happen.
No,
so, like, that's what I think is so interesting. I had another idea on this, and this wouldn't solve free agency. So maybe I'll say, I'll just say because I already talked about it. One of the things I hear teams complain about with spending money is that the problem that they have with the luxury tax penalties is that it becomes a competitive balance tax, and that the money goes to their opponents, right? So, like, the Yankees got money from the Red Sox this year because the Red Sox spent too much money.
Right.
And that's one of the main reasons that the teams don't want to do that. There's also been talk about a salary floor, but the teams would probably just end up giving out weird specific contracts or whatever. So I had two ideas here. Mm-hmm. And again, this would not solve free agency, but I'll loop back into that. I just talked about this, so I figured I'd keep going. One is your competitive balance money. Why not just give it to charity, man? Like, MLB, no, seriously, MLB, take it. Just give it to fucking charity. Like, stop giving it to other teams. If that's really the issue. Because the thing is, it's not a ton of money per team. And if that's the excuse that the teams want to pull, because do you know how much the Yankees got from the Red Sox?
No idea.
$12 million. Do you think the Yankees care about $12 million?
No. I mean, outside of extremely small market teams like Pittsburgh or San Diego or places like that, nobody's going to give a shit about that kind of money. Like, it's not going to change their operation status.
I don't think it would really even change their operation status as a small market. I mean, like, maybe it'd help you sign one player, you know? Yeah. Like, it's just so give it to charity. Or give it to the minor leaguers. They might need money.
Who would ever approve of that, though?
So that's idea one. My second thing is, imagine this. So you have a salary floor, right? Mm-hmm. If you don't hit it, then whatever the difference is becomes a bonus to all your players. So you don't, like, let's say you're the Padres, the salary floor is $80 million. I don't know what average payroll is off the top of my head. Oh, wait, actually, I think I have it up in a tab. And let's say you spend $60 million. So that $20 million now needs to be redistributed amongst everyone on your 40-man roster. So it wouldn't be a ton of money, but it would at least be something. So it would force the team to want to spend money so that they're not overpaying all their players every year. So they'd go out and get, real MLB players, or at least give out better contracts to the talent that they've acquired. And if they don't, then the players that you could say are underpaid, or no, I don't think any player on a team that's making $80 million is getting paid enough to play baseball professionally, then they would at least get some extra earnings on the side. What do you think? I'm not saying this is perfect.
It's just weird that you would just have something in a CBA like that where it's like, oh, hey, if the team doesn't try, all your players just get bonuses. Like, that's just kind of a weird clause to have. Like, I'm not terribly against it. I think it would. I don't know. Like, it weirds me out just having something like that in a CBA. I'd much prefer seeing have it go to either the minor leaguers just to boost their payroll, or to have it go to charity.
I think that is also fine. It was just a thought. I understand your concerns, and I'm not married to this idea. I'm not going to fight you on this. But so as I said, though, that doesn't really fix free agency, because my thing at this point is I don't know how you're going to convince a team that a 10-year contract is worth it at this point. And I think it's a little bit disheartening, because even if it's not 10 years, $300 million for $30 million a year, I mean, if it was 10 years, $170 million at $17 a year, that's fine. Like, that's a great contract for someone who's, if someone's 26. And I that wasn't even the terms issued by the White Sox. They only offered 7 years. Like, why are teams so afraid of the age 36 season? I don't know what you could do to convince a team that long terms are worth it. I don't know what you could do to convince a team that big money is worth it. And I think that's going to be the hardest part for the MLBPA to address in the upcoming CBA discussions, because what can you possibly put in there to not have worked around to fight for your players on it? It's such a unique situation.
I'm starting to think that maybe we're not qualified enough to answer this kind of question. Just beginning to dawn on me after all this.
Oh, we're certainly not qualified enough to answer this question.
Maybe you and I just aren't enough to be commissioners of MLB.
Well, if we were the commissioners of MLB, we would be fighting very, very hard against players getting played.
I mean,
players getting paid.
If I was the commissioner of the MLB, it would be a Cleveland Indians, Pittsburgh Pirates World Series every year, whether or not they want to or not. Boom.
Yeah, I don't think whether or not they would want to. Yeah, the Indians are like,
fuck you guys.
But Commissioner Corwin, we don't want to play in the World Series.
I want to win another World Series this year.
Can't you give it to the Padres?
Come on.
What do you think Mike Trout would command if he was a free agent this offseason? Let's say Machado and Harper were not free agents, just so the market's a little bit less muddy, right? So it's really just Trout on the market. What do you think? Like, do you think it would be hitting him this hard? The consensus greatest player in baseball? Like, where do you think he'd be at?
I think he would be a lot closer to... I mean, if they really are getting hit as much as they are... Okay. If Harper and Machado are really getting hit with these lowball offers as much as they are, I don't think he would be anywhere close to the $400 million contract that some people have wildly speculated. I do think he would be able to commandeer a $300 million contract, though.
I think so, too.
I don't think anyone would argue giving that man $300 million to play for them.
But it's just so tough because, like, I remember during the winter meetings, I had heard Michael Kay talk about how he talked to an exec at a team he wasn't going to mention, that they'd be more comfortable giving Bryce Harper a 2-year, $90 million contract than they would giving him a 7-year deal. So they'd be more comfortable giving Bryce Harper $45 million per year for 2 years than they would be giving him for something for long term. So it really makes me think that, on the one hand, length is the issue, because I guess you could view every additional year as a gamble, and with every additional year, the gamble gets a little bit tougher to, I guess, swallow, or if it makes it increases the chance of it going poorly. So they don't want to do it for that. And then you look at the dollars, and they said like the whole WAR discussion I brought up earlier. But Mike Trout just seems like such a safe bet. Like he had 2 DL stints, and both have been for very like freak things. Like neither one's been like a real like long-term baseball injury. Stubbed his thumb on a bag sliding into second base last year, and did something weird this year. It wasn't major. Most of his DL stint was because his brother-in-law passed away. So he's
such a shame.
Really is, especially because he was in the Angels organization too. But at the same time, like I don't think Machado's that much of a gamble. I think Harper's a little bit just because of how inconsistent he's been, but he's still so young. In my mind, yeah, I think Mike Trout would get like a $100 million contract, or $300 million contract. But part of me almost wants to say it'd be for 8 years over 10, just because baseball's been fucking weird, man.
Yeah, I definitely see things getting much shorter, and I think as much as Harper wants to kind of lock in his career with this next contract, I think he's going to have to go shorter and just hope that he can stay healthy and stay consistent and land another big contract afterwards.
All right, this will be our final non-statistical episode on baseball until the spring training games start.
Amen.
Do you see any big trades or free agency moves discounting Harper and Machado happening between now and then?
As much as I don't want to see it happen, I could see something going on with Corey Kluber getting moved by the Indians. I really would hate to see it, but there's been so much talk going on about it. I wouldn't be terribly surprised if he moved.
I think that the Red Sox are going to trade away players soon.
Okay.
I know that they've been rumored to be looking to trade away Xander Bogaerts and someone else I can't think of off the top of my head. So I think that they are going to look to shed payroll now that they have won their World Series. I don't think it's going to matter much because they're still super fucking good. But if I had to make a guess, I'm going to make my guess for the next 3 weeks that the Red Sox are going to trade at least one starting player away, and that the Padres are going to trade for one player, hopefully to start, possibly third base, and that they might take that player from the Red Sox if they can. That's my prediction for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, I wouldn't be terribly surprised by those either.
Do you have anything else you'd like to say on the current affairs going on in sports?
I'm all set. Not much. I mean, the NHL All-Star break's going on right now. Other than that, not much is going on.
I was going to say, I just want to give a shout out to the NHL. As much as I hate the Department of Player Safety, the NHL as an organization is very, very good. They're very progressive. They were the very first organization to have a Pride Week. They've done a great job with community outreach. And for the first time ever, they invited a female ice hockey player to join in at All-Star Weekend and compete in the skills competition. So I just want to give a lot of props to the NHL for continuing to be a great source of community outreach and trying to inspire everyone that they can to play hockey. Because, for one thing, they need it, because not a lot of people play hockey. But also, it is a very valiant thing to do, and I think it's really cool that they did it.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I wish they showed more of it, because I know one of the female skaters technically won the passing competition during the skills competition on Friday night, and they never televised it. So hopefully next year we get a little more opened up with this and we could televise the rest of the female participants. But it's just great to see that they're even out there.
Yeah, no, it's super encouraging. But that's the only thing that I have for that topic. So Shall I do?
Close it up.
All right. So if you want to give us a shout, you can reach us via email at juicingthenumbers@gmail.com. If you want to hit us up on Twitter, you can do so at juicingpod. It's juicingpod. If you want to find our website and all the things that happen on it, you can find it at juicingthenumbers.wixsite.com. It's juicingthenumbers.wixsite.com/website. And that's all we have for you today. I hope you enjoyed our very, very, very long discussion on baseball.